Hi, this is Lisa Medved, and this is my video review of highlights of my ePortfolio for my comp exam. I just completed my 18th year teaching and have completed all my classes for my Building Leadership Masters, and I'm very excited about being able to achieve one of my short-term professional goals. After I've completed that in the next week or so, I will be able to begin on another personal goal of mine, short term, which is getting settled in our home. We just moved in September, and I have had very little time to organize our chaos. So I'm pretty excited about doing that. I plan to remain at my charter school in the classroom for the time being. I have a son who attends this school. He's going to be in second grade, and a daughter who will be attending another school at sixth grade. And for right now, I think that my classroom time is the best use of my time in order to support my family in at home. So for right now, I'll be remaining here unless, of course, a leadership position opens up, then I may consider applying for that. I'd like to look very quickly at my leadership philosophy. It is filled with all kinds of beliefs and things I will do as a leader. A couple of the areas I wanted to focus on, which was leading by example. I think that that's quite important to show staff what the expectation is and that I'm able to do that and will lead them that way. Leading with words of encouragement, empathy, inspiration, positivity is very important to me. I feel that establishing those relationships with your staff is vital to being able to later handle the more difficult situations and make those effective learning opportunities for everyone. And also leading with humility and not being afraid to admit my mistakes and when I'm wrong. I think, again, this is very important for everyone within the organization to acknowledge our humanity and our inability to be perfect. So by doing that, I help people to accept mistakes that they've made and to grow from those as well. So that is my philosophy of leadership. I've uploaded my program of study and it's complete, and my resume as well is there, but I won't go into it. It just outlines my education. I did appreciate the suggestion for adding skills to the resume. I did not have that before, and I really appreciated being able to add to my resume something that was helpful. So now on to the meat of my portfolio. The first part is bibliography. I really enjoyed this activity because I got to pick what I wanted to read and things that I was passionate about. So I'm just going to talk very quickly about a couple of them. This Berkovich and Eyal article about emotional reframing. Basically, it talks about an administrator helping teachers to reframe their negative thinking, their negative emotions towards an event. And by doing so, the research says that teachers become more motivated, autonomous motivation, and then also more attached to the school. They have a greater commitment to the school. So I liked that simple but practical advice that this article projected. The other article I wanted to just point out that I think is really impactful is this Green article about misconceptions of suspension. I chose this because this has been a topic of conversation at our school. We're a K-12 school, so we deal with the suspensions, of course, on different levels. But you know, the effectiveness of those is in question, according to this article, and that it's not accomplishing what we think it is. So the article lays out some cultural expectations that can be put in place, some positive behavior acknowledgments that can be put in place to help prevent those behaviors and then thereby preventing suspensions. But I thought it was a really good place to start and this conversation about suspensions. I'm going to go into my activities now very quickly. There's quite a few, so I'm just going to touch on a couple in each of the areas. In the district activities, one of my, I had two activities that I was particularly happy with and proud of. This first one is this e-guide to Colorado ESS and ELL families or resources. It's really great because it can be uploaded onto a website where families can just click on, find their disability or area of need and click on that, and it'll go straight to the website so they can get the resources they need. I think this is great too for staff to be able to quickly find some resources when they have a student in their class with those needs. The other thing I was really, I learned a lot from was this ESS discipline activity. It was sort of a culmination of a few different things. I attended an ESS discipline or suspension, actually it was an expulsion manifestation hearing, which was quite eye-opening, the discussion that was had. And then I created this ESS discipline flowchart to help guide decisions as you go forth with an ESS student. And then I discussed this all with the director of special education for our district, and she was thought the flowchart was very helpful, so she's actually going to be using that for her special ed teachers in the district. Elementary had quite a few more activities because that's the area in which I am focusing. So a couple of things I wanted to point out as highlights were here this duty rosters and recess rosters, sort of a master roster schedule. This is difficult. I was asked to do this for the 17-18 school year, and it's difficult at our school because we are a K-12 school. So there are a lot of things to be taken into consideration as far as duty. We also have several buildings. We have 7 educational buildings, plus a gym and a cafeteria. So developing a duty roster to cover all those areas and also maintain equality and also make sure people aren't double booked was quite difficult. As a matter of fact, you can see I had to make revisions after the first semester ended and things changed in January of that school year. But this was very helpful, but difficult at the same time. But I learned a lot about dealing with people and conflict solving and quite a few things. Another area I wanted to talk about was quite impactful was I spent a day at our neighboring district's Title I school. It actually was a school I worked in quite a few years ago. So I had a little background, and I found that helpful when I went to visit them. Since I left, they had gone into a turnaround status and had to undergo quite a bit of reform, and initiatives were implemented in the classroom. In the school, there were administration changes and so forth. So I spent the day with the administration team there and just learned a lot. I was reminded about a lot of what I had to do for diverse students, diverse populations, the new initiatives and research for schools that handle these Title I funds and students. But it was really eye-opening, and one of my goals is to eventually make a difference in a school like this. That's where I've spent the majority of my career, and I was very happy to be reminded of that, and probably one of the highlights of my practicum. I'm going to move on to my secondary activities. A couple things I wanted to look at was, or just point out, was my lock-in procedures. So the lock-in procedures were a result of an overnight threat to our district where we started the day. We actually knew the night before that there was going to be this lock-in situation, which is not something we'd had before, really, but it was a particular challenge for our school because of the spread out nature of our campus. So, like I said, we have seven educational buildings, four of which are modulars that do not have restrooms. And this lock-in mandate required that everyone stay within buildings, and nobody could leave and be outside walking between buildings. So we had to rearrange the entire campus basically to accommodate this. And so that took a lot of planning throughout the day. There were a lot of things that came up. But what I did after that event was volunteered to take this information and put it into a document that could be used in the future, so we did not have to rethink what we had already done, and also could easily tweak it and change it. So this took a bit of time to get all of the information and then discuss it and add changes based on our experiences. But I thought this was really helpful because I could think through what a day would look like, and having also walked through it, could see where we needed to make changes based upon um, what we did. So that was one thing. And then I wanted to also just point out one of my favorite things to do was the promotional video for our school. I really enjoyed this. It was fun to think about all of the positive things our school has to offer. And I think that's really important given the social media phenomenon, I guess, where, it's really easy for negative um, information to get out there quickly. And I like this, not that this can counter everything, but it's there, it's visual, and it really helps people remember what is really positive about our school. The last thing I want to talk about in this portfolio is my reflection. I also really enjoyed this reflection and thinking about where I came from, what I started thinking, where I went, and things I need to still work on. So I basically thought going in, I was going to be doing meetings and discipline and teacher supervision and some reports. And when I did that, or I thought that going in, and then when I started my practicum and working on some hours, I did do some of those things. I did do some teacher observations, and I did do student discipline, and I did do some reports, and I definitely did some meetings. So those things were all true, but also I had a whole boatload of other things I learned about. I didn't know I was going to be, learning so much about the legality of education. I didn't know I was going to be supervising middle school and high school basketball games. I didn't know that I had to think so much about um, budget and finance and ethical handling of money and things like that. I didn't know that I was going to be doing those things, which I did, and I was very happy about it. But I came to the question of whether or not I could juggle all of these things that I did, and majority I did in our K-12 charter school. How could I do all of those things well and also make a difference in a Title I school or a diverse school, which is my goal later on. So I thought about that, and I thought I can do the things that I learned about, and certainly some of them will take some practice. But I do have limited experience in administration in Title I schools. So I know going forward that I need to do some more studying on those, studying of the poverty, of emotional poverty. I need to be in there just with more experience with Title I schools. So that's my goal. My goals going forward are to join a professional organization to stay abreast of all of the new trends and research. I'm going to spend time reading on my own about Ruby Payne books, some poverty books, and I'm also going to try to get a position as an administrator in one of the Title I schools for summer school so I can still stay at this job. So that is my portfolio. I appreciate everything you've done for me, and I am so looking forward to graduating. Thank you so much.